pieces of the puzzle are coming together. We're on the threshold now of reaching critical mass where we start to reap the benefits of that investment that actually has been going on for a number of years.
Mm-hmm. So with the keyboard and mouse interface, there's a time investment that a power user can make to get really fast with it by using keyboard shortcuts and other things like that. Is there the same type of investment with natural user interfaces, or is the emphasis on natural?
Okay, so here we come down to, again, the types of things, what's natural. The only things that are really natural are the things that are innate that we're born with. We can hear, we can walk, we have to eat, we breathe, and so on and so forth. Those are innate attributes. Then there's a couple other attributes which are things like we also have an innate ability to learn and to be curious and build up skills. So the reason you have power users is because they've invested in developing a particular skill.
Yeah.
What's important to understand is the nature of skill. Skill is really expensive to acquire. Things which seem natural and simple to us today, things as simple as tying a shoelace, if you look back or if you have young kids, you realize that isn't natural. It's a very unnatural thing, and people struggled with a long time to learn. Mm-hmm. But once you've made that investment, why would, if that skill that you invested in can be used for something else, why would you not use that? And why would you make somebody learn something new, which is just as hard, which you could have done with that? So don't waste people's skill. They're really expensive to acquire.
Yeah.
Right? And we're already too busy. It's not that I don't like learning, it's just that there's already too much to learn, and I still aren't going to catch up. A lifetime of learning notwithstanding. So, in the sense that things are natural is, how do you design in a way that can take advantage of the skills that you have already acquired from a lifetime of living in the everyday world? And when I say skills, I mean motor sensory skills, I mean cognitive skills, I mean social skills. And if you think about the technology, and this is maybe the best way to think about it, as a mirror, you can evaluate the quality of the design by the fidelity with which that mirror reflects you. And that's kind of a nice metaphor, but it doesn't quite make it. So I'll refine it. And so what does that mean? So how does it mirror how I see, how I touch, how I move, and my motor sensory, how I hear, how I speak, the motor sensory part? How does it reflect my cognitive side, how I learn, how I problem solve, how I feel emotionally? And fourth, my social skills. How does the technology reflect those skills that I've already acquired? And then how I behave and what are the standard conventions in different circumstances. Get the fidelity of all three mirrors. And the fourth one could be your emotional skills. But if we've got that fidelity in all four mirrors, I think you qualify for doing NUI. It doesn't come for free just because you got a particular technology. You need the whole deal. Now, to answer your question, one of the key things is, whenever possible, to not force you to learn something new, but to do the design in a way that exploits a skill you already have. For example, simple thing I'd love to see, on the scroll arrows, when you're scrolling up and down, I'm used to driving a car, so the harder I push the pedal, the faster things go, right?
Sure.
That's called stimulus response compatibility. Okay? I have that. I got a pressure sensitive stylus. I could have a pressure sensitive button on the mouse. The harder I push, the faster it scrolls, right? I don't have to learn anything. I just tell you that and you remember it forever, and you'll know how to use it, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got the skill built in.
Yeah.
There's lots of places like that. Now there are some places, like touch typing, or playing the violin, which takes 13 years of practice, which makes learning to type seem like nothing, right? Where if the value is there, it's worth learning something new, because again, typing on a QWERTY keyboard, no, it is not a natural thing, but neither is driving a car, neither is learning to put on shoes, neither is tying a shoelace, neither is knowing how to work an elevator. We live in a society, intelligence is defined by the ability to adapt to the changes in the ecosystem through accommodation and assimilation. And so we just design things which are intelligent and that utilize human intelligence, but don't waste the investment they've already made in skills. But when necessary, you bring in new skills. But the way you get up to speed fast is just because it's a power law. It's called power law of practice. We have to be, that's part of the respect. I respect the time you've spent learning to play violin, so I'm going to build you the most damn violin that'll make you sound, for the amount of investment you've made, you sound better as than you ever imagined, and as good as it's possible to let you
get the most
sound.
from your abilities.
Absolutely.
With the hardware. Yeah,
It's an amplifier. It's the prosthetic, and that's full of surprise and delight. I want you to be surprised and delighted in the way the violinist. Wow, I've never sounded this good. What
Yeah.
a beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
Wow, on my machine, on my mobile. And if that's the measurement of success, right? The revenue will follow.
Yeah.
Right? It's just, but that's what we all dream about.
So with a Silverlight especially, I mean, it's now the web has the potential to be multi-touch.
Yeah.
And we're opening up these new interfaces to people who probably haven't thought of this before. What does someone like a web designer need to think about with natural user interfaces?
Yeah, I guess we tend to think about innovation in terms of products and the basic technologies. And I think that, again, that's a really good question because it brings it out a really easily neglected aspect of what we're at here. And that is that it's not enough to have the technologies, the end products, and so on and so forth. If you don't build the tools that help people do that, if you don't have the good examples, if you don't put in place things like Mix and other things where you do this, you basically, they're educational seminars to help and to help bring our partners up to speed. That's how
Yeah.
we grow, right? Is by having our partners grow. But that's too arrogant. That assumes we know and they don't.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
The other part is that we spend time, and that's why you go to things like Mix and the Worldwide Partners Conference and other things where we engage with customers, because I don't just go to a talk and then disappear. I hang out because I want to hear what the input, because it's a bi-directional meeting.
Yeah, you learn from their experimentation.
Absolutely. That's how arrogant to believe that we know more about web design than the world's best web designers
yeah.
who actually buy our products. Right?
Yeah.
It's just it's absurd. We're not that stupid. And so the question is, how do you build that ecosystem? But what I'm trying to say is that it's as important to invest in the design of the culture of the ecosystem that's necessary to make this stuff come, as it is to design where we're where we're going. The transitions are as important and take as much attention as the thing you're going to. Mm-hmm. And that includes just thinking about the business model. It includes it's the same thing as I have the greatest product, but if I don't have a business plan or marketing plan, how am I going to get there? And that's true with the marketing of ideas, of aesthetics, of ways of working, as well as with products. And I'd say that research is actually engaged in all those things. And not only research, but the company is.
So at PDC in the Coding for Fun booth, they had some very interesting examples of user interface that included some augmented reality.
Yep.
How important is augmented reality to an effective natural interface?
So there's some interesting technologies around that, and I think that so I've been involved in that space from pretty much the beginning of AR, and I think it's a way to augment the physical world with virtual. So for people to understand, it's sort of like if instead of this virtual reality, where it's a totally synthetic world, if I'm navigating through space, you see the physical world, but then I actually get metadata. It could just be labels superimposed on the real world, sort of like a heads-up display.
Yeah.
Well, in the past, it's been these things. We have backpacks and all this complex gear. But what if your mobile phone just has a little Pico projector in it, and you don't need all this tracker. You just point it at a device or something, and either through RFID tagging or other ways of tagging or knowing where it is, you press the projector and it's like a flashlight, and it illuminates the thing you're looking at. But it illuminates it with information, not just with light. Light is the vehicle to provide the information. And I don't need all this tracking because I can just point it and register it myself with my hand, and all of a sudden I've got a really cheap thing with me all the time. And all of a sudden it becomes different. And by the way, if I've got a camera in that mobile phone that's flashing it out, that's also a touch screen.
Yeah.
Think of it this way. A mobile phone, what's Surface? Surface is a projector and camera in alignment that rear project onto a rear projection screen, and then I can sense touch and plus see the display. If I turn it upside down and just go like this with the same thing, my mobile phone is Surface. Mm-hmm. Now, instead of going onto a plain virgin rear projection screen surface, I project it onto that mouse. It can start to, the projection can say, oh, that's a mouse. It can do that, I can align it. And then the labels are all there for how to use it. The manual's right there.
Yeah.
Right? And then I close it and turn off. And that's within the technological reality of the next 12 months to do. That's not a product announcement. I'm just,
sure,
but
yeah.
Because we can go on like this forever.
Yeah.
There's so many different things we can do, so many different scenarios. The question is then, and this is where the discipline comes in, having great ideas is not the problem. Great ideas are a dime a dozen.
Sure.
Out of the 100, picking the 2, they're the ones you should be doing at this stage of the game, and figuring out how they fit into the larger puzzle. That's where leadership and
yeah, that seems like that would be one of the hardest problems. Is there's a lot of good paths to go down, but
right.
Which ones and when?
Let's come back to what I said earlier. Always talk about the word future like math as maths or mathematics in the plural. To confront yourself all the time, to remind yourself all the time that there's more than one future. Which one do you want? Why? And then, once you've made that decision and you've got a good rationale, it makes it easier to prune the tree. And it doesn't mean you're not going to do those other things. This is the question of how do you prioritize? And you'd like it to be not by some short-term economic thing that takes you down a blind alley, but rather in something that fits into your long-term strategy. And that's that helps integrate all of the disparate products of the company so that they actually start to be seen as part of a suite of things that each one has great value on its own, but far more value even, or greater value when it's in combination with some of the others. But you get the diversity of all these different things by the combinatorics that can result by combining these things in different ways. And so instead of trying to build one device that does that, another device that does that, if I have the right set of things, that by combining these 3 things I've got, or in the different combinations I can cover, the majority of the space.
Yeah.
With the minimum number, but the right number of the right devices and technologies. That's kind of the way I think we have to work at, or else it'd just be overwhelming because it's too complex. But again, that's kind of our job. If it wasn't hard, we shouldn't be here, right? It's not worth doing, or it would have been done already. And so we can't lash ourselves in the back too much for not having instant answers. The question is having interesting questions and interesting strategies and a way to work through them. And recognize that, we're human, and we should never have to apologize for that. But we should also recognize that and then take the appropriate steps and precautions.
Well, thanks so much for coming and talking to us today.
It's
really
my pleasure.
Appreciate it. Come back anytime.
Well, I love to. I mean, it's clear. This stuff is just great. How could you not love it and be enthusiastic? We live in really interesting times.
It's a great time in technology.
I've been at it, as I said, from 1971, and it's better now than it has ever been.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.